Okay, I'm just going to say it now so we don't have to say it for the rest of the episode. Dune 2 chicks at the same time.
Dune 2 chicks at the same time.
So we said it and we don't have to say it again. So let's talk about Dune 2. Wow. So Dune 2. Okay, let's start off here. The experience in the theater was not good. We will talk about that later. We're going to start talking about the movie.
Yes. I will say that I think that affected how you feel about it a little more than it did for me.
Yeah.
Because it didn't get as fair a shake as it should have. Not to say you didn't like it, but just to say it was harder to fully invest because of
the theater. Yes.
That will influence this conversation.
Well, look, here, just to start off on the bat, loved it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Great movie. Holy shit. Amazing.
How did this exist? How did somebody do this?
Do you want to keep it rough and spoiler free for the first part of the conversation, and then have from here on out we're talking spoilers?
Let's try to do that. So no spoilers right now. Just loose things. Dune 1. Yeah, I think you and I are both in agreement that movie's fucking fantastic. Also
phenomenal.
Like kind of hard to think that a movie in the same universe could be better.
Yeah,
like so much of it felt destined to have the second one be kind of a letdown. And that didn't happen at all.
I kind of disagree because it was like the thing that wasn't the one thing that keeps the first one from being like absolutely perfect is the lack of a resolution to the story, like to the full story. Where in the second one there is more of a like final, but even then
I was gonna say I may disagree on that. We'll talk about that when we get to spoilers.
Yeah.
Not disagree, but I may have a different take, I guess, on that, on the feeling the ending leaves you with. But Dune is a movie I saw in IMAX opening night when it came out back when. Packed theater. It was I've seen that movie in IMAX twice now. Yeah. Seen it in theaters 3 times.
Yeah.
I love Dune.
Yeah.
And I've liked it more every time I've watched it.
Yeah.
Every time you're able to look at it and go a little bit deeper on it and feel things. It's it's one of those movies that every time you're like, oh, I didn't think about that the first time.
Yeah.
I didn't think about this being that and that, but you know what I mean? It's just it's a great peel back the movie and see all of its layers.
Yeah.
And it's fantastic and great. And I was nervous about a sequel solely because it just feels like a sequel will never, you know what I mean? And it's unique to split a book into 2 parts. I mean, I know it's been done a bunch with things that it definitely shouldn't have been done. Dune feels like the first time where it's yes, do that.
Dune
completely
is so
just do that.
Famously complicated.
Yeah.
So famously the plans within plans within plans, plots within plots within plots. Those are literally lines within the book. And I think in the movie,
the second one.
So it's it is a famously dense, politically dense book.
Yes.
So splitting that into 2 makes a lot more sense than some of the
your
other
Harry Potter's, your Hunger Games and things like that.
Hunger Games is the epitome of that for me.
And let's just get this out of the way. Also, where does this rank in hottest casts of all time?
I mean, it's got to be up there.
Let's just say both, because obviously people fall off from the first one, and new characters are added in the next one.
Yeah.
Most attractive cast, most sexiest cast of all time. I think.
Man, the sad part is Tim Blake Nelson was cast, had a part filmed, but it got cut from the movie. So
the first one or the second one?
The second one. He would have made that movie even hotter if Tim Blake Nelson.
I had seen that he had a special thanks, and I didn't know why. I was like, Tim Blake Nelson? There's 6 special thanks, and that's it. Anyway,
because he was cast, did scenes.
Do they know? Has it been announced what was he, like a Harkonnen guy?
There's a character that I don't know exactly what. I havenn't read the book, so I don't know.
Okay, so it is like a character. It's not just some kind of grunt soldier.
No. He had a part that got cut.
Okay, well that's a bummer. I love Tim Blake Nelson.
Yeah.
It's awesome though. Okay, so what were you? I am obsessed with the Dune 2 trailer.
Yeah, I have stayed away from as much press and trailers and all of it as possible. The only time I watched it was in the theater twice. Okay. I have stayed away as much as possible. So I literally had I knew people were really excited about it. That was all I knew going in.
I think I've watched it about 100 times. Mostly because I go to the movies like 4 times a week. Like it's what I do. I've seen that trailer so many times, and it does, and this is an interesting thing that I think more movies should do. It almost feels, and we'll talk about this in the spoiler section, it almost feels like the trailer's like setting up a different movie than the movie is, but not in a way that's like outright misleading. Right. In a way that they use certain lines that are in Dune Part 2 and then cut to certain things and imply certain things that aren't really what the movie's about. Yeah. But like, it doesn't bother me. Sometimes when a trailer lies to you about what a movie... Like Drive was one of those situations where it's like, I get why people would be mad. Drive is an awesome movie. I mean, love Drive. But if you go in expecting The Fast and the Furious and you got Drive, you'd be like, okay, that was really fucking weird. Yeah. Like you would be waiting the whole time for it to become the thing.
What's the Megan Fox movie where the teenage girl...
Jennifer's Body.
That's another one where it's like they just... They were like, girls don't go see movies. Only horny guys go see movies. Yeah. So it's like... Yeah, there is like a right way and a wrong way to do it of like, we're afraid nobody's going to come see this, so let's make it look like a movie that it isn't. Yeah. But like Dune 2, that feels more like a situation where it's like, let's not give away the entire movie in the trailer. Yeah,
let's not give away the movie. Let's try to... Because the tension of Dune Part 2 is pretty like... to keep it pretty specific, there's a lot of characters who don't know a lot of other people or the people doing the thing that's going on. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of that going on. So there's not a lot of like active tension in those kind of ways. It's bigger scale for a lot of the movie. And then it starts to all focus in on individuals in like the best way possible. Like so much of the tension is the giant conflict. Yeah. And then the internal tension for characters. And then those characters are in danger because of this thing. Right. But then it kind of like reverses and all of the tension feels like it comes down to one fist fight in like the best way possible. Right. And I'm super into that.
Any final kind of impression-y things outside of just go see it. Just go see it. Go see it in the theater. Just go see it.
I think the big thing for me is that I think everyone in this year's Oscar race is really happy Dune pushed. Right. Because I think both of us in the Oscar one picked Oppenheimer for cinematography. Absolutely would not win. Yeah. I think sound would be a really hard category. Yeah. I think score would be a really hard category. Yeah. And I love the Oppenheimer score. I've listened to the Dune soundtrack twice since seeing the movie. Yeah. 2 or 3 times since seeing the movie, really. Yeah. And this is going to come out like 4 or 5 days before this comes out, so I will probably listen to it like 5 more times. Like, right. The Dune 2 score is better than the first one. Yeah. Go see this movie, and I really can't sell this enough. Like, I don't think it can be overhyped.
Yeah, like I've been talking. Is it the best movie ever made? I don't know. It's phenomenal.
Like if you were to walk out of this movie and be like, that might be the best movie I've ever seen, I'd be like, fucking more power to you.
Not a wrong take.
Because like I kind of told my my brother and my dad, because my mom's like, I don't want to see that movie, so my dad's trying to find a time to go. I was like, y'all go, and he was like, okay, I'll go see it. I was like, but make sure you see it in IMAX. Yeah. Because like we had a terrible situation. The theaters by where they live, in my experience, I've never had a bad IMAX situation, which is nice. Other than one guy trying to clap during the Batman, which is not like a clap movie, which was whatever. He was trying to have a good time. I'm less mad about that. It didn't happen more than once.
Being excited about the movie you're watching is different.
Annoying. Yeah. But I told him, I was like, this really feels like a once in a lifetime IMAX experience. Yeah. Like, even more than the first one did.
I agree with that.
It's bigger and crazier and just there are conversation scenes in this movie filmed entirely in IMAX, and it's brilliant for it. You know what I mean? Anyway, see it in a premiere format if you can. Yeah. It's absolutely worth that. Try to go to a theater where, crowds aren't terrible. But anyway, those are my last impressions on just general.
Go see the movie. This is a hard recommendation. Go see it on the biggest screen you can.
And then come back and
listen to spoiler conversation. That starts now. Dune.
I purposely avoided the book and the old movie.
Same.
So I didn't know the story. Yeah. Now I think it kind of came out a little bit for me just by like cultural zeitgeist stuff that like the character turn of Paul. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I wasn't like surprised by that, but man, it's so good. Yeah. Guys, he's not the hero. Yeah. He's the bad guy.
Yeah. Or like turned into the bad guy, you know what I mean?
Like, at the beginning, he's absolutely not.
He's the pawn that you think is going to be the chosen one. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
something that's really stuck out to me and really like I've thought about so much is the end of the first one, right? He has this vision about this man within the Fremen who's going to show him.
Yeah.
And that's the first man he kills.
Yeah.
In this movie, he has to go back to that man and seek through time with Spice and with his power.
Yeah.
To relearn the ways of the desert to get him to do the thing they want. So even at the beginning, which is like tragic, right?
Yeah.
Like don't get me wrong, like Paul makes terrible decisions and starts a holy war that will cause genocide on every planet in the universe.
Yeah.
Like he also is a pawn in someone else's game that they lose control of. It's not like I don't feel bad for Paul for a lot of it. Like for a lot of it I do, and then there's a specific moments where it's like, nope, I no longer feel bad about this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You made your choices. But I think it's a fascinating thing that the movie is even like he tried to kill the past and it still took control of him. You know what I mean? I think that's brilliant. I think that's one of the themes that's really stuck out to me the most.
Yeah.
Also, it's just one of the most like viscerally gorgeous movies I've ever seen in my life.
100%.
Yeah, it's insane and I love it.
Yeah.
There's a lot. It plays better as an action movie.
Yeah.
Like there's like full sequences that are like great, larger than life. I'm thinking like really specific. I mean, the third act is the third act. It's unreal. But like they attack the spice harvester.
Yeah.
Dude, the ornithopter's gun, it's like this like shotgun thing.
Yeah.
It's like scary.
Yeah, terrifying.
I was watching it and I was like, oh my God.
It's
like yeah, and it's, you just see the sand popping up all over. Oh, dude.
Yeah. It feels so weightless and terrifying in the best way. You know what I mean? Like it feels like you're shooting salt at a fly. Yeah. And it's like, no, those are people. Those are.
And then the snipers in it are just like the little laser blaster things, which is like a really amazing, fascinating image that I love a lot.
Yeah.
Because it's like horrifying to think that you just go bzz, and you fall over and you're dead.
That's the thing about those weapons is like those are particularly terrifying because if they hit a shield, it will set off a nuclear explosion, like a nuclear. Both the wearer of the shield and the laser gun itself will set off this like don't cross the streams level.
I didn't realize that
attack. So that's why they're not that's why they're not super used.
Yeah,
is because like it's like,
so dangerous.
It is so dangerous to use them.
Okay,
it's like you have to know that what is on the other end of it does not have a shield running, or else everyone in the vicinity.
Okay, that's wild. I didn't realize that. Yeah. That's
crazy.
Why,
like the technology and the explanation of the technology and like why this world is the way that it is makes so much sense, and there's so much thought put into it. Like not like that comes from the book. All of this stuff is like specifically from the book, but like
it gives a reason why they're using swords.
Yes,
you know what I mean. Yeah. Like it's not just like
there's a reason why computers don't exist.
What's the reason why
in the olden times they made computers that got so advanced that they became that they were used to enslave people. Other like certain houses and certain things were using computers and robots and AI and all that kind of stuff to enslave others and to put them to work using this using this technology. So there was this religious revolt that came up to destroy the use of those kinds of computers. So now there are people that are. Yeah. So the guy in the first movie, he is essentially a computer of a person. Paul is being trained as that. Yeah. So that's why he's able to think like on top of the fact that he is, for all the other reasons he is who he is, he was also being trained to think like so perfectly analytically, to be able to see the gusts of wind, like when they go into that sandstorm in the first movie, he can see the gusts of winds and where that would take him and how he would,
how he to surrender to it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like part of that is, the Bene Gesserit, like, seeing into the future and seeing that kind of thing, but also the deep analytical skill that he has in order to, essentially turn himself into a computer. And so, I believe that the new religion is the book is the Orange Catholic Bible, the Orange or the Catholic Orange Bible or something like that. Fascinating, bizarre. Weird. That is not super. That's not like in the movie, but like all of those things from the book are still here. They're just not like here's like the 6-paragraph explanation as to why they're not using that. But it's all still there. But it
makes it feel lived in. You know what I mean? You watch sci-fi movies all the time where you're like, what?
Right.
What bouncy, floaty world am I living in? Right. That doesn't, which this is funny. This movie has literal bouncing and floating. Yeah. But it feels so weighted. You know what I mean? Like, the shields play way less of a thing in this one, like in general, right? Which for that exact reason that you're saying is like, why wouldn't one of these Fremen guys just shoot somebody with a shield and blow everyone up? Right. Like, if they had to, you know what I mean, to get the advantage. Like, anyway, fucking fantastic movie. Other scenes. The black and white stuff.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
I cannot, I don't know if it's out or if they've talked about it. I cannot wait to figure out what they did in order to shoot those scenes, because sometimes it looks like infrared. Sometimes, is it infrared?
Greg Fraser said they had to fight with the studio about it, and they shot it that way. Like, one of the reasons they shot it that way so they couldn't take it away from them. Yeah. They were like, it's baked in. That is how it looks. You know what I mean? Like,
it's sick.
Well, and the thing is like when you watch the trailers, you're like, okay, so those are going to be flashbacks. And then in the movie, when they're not flashbacks, you're like, what? And then you realize it's because it's a black sun and it makes everything look that way. And you're like, well, this is the coolest movie of all time.
The coolest shit ever.
And so when they're inside and there's like artificial light, they're back in color. It's so cool.
The fireworks that are like drops of oil on this like is the coolest. The visuals like so often blockbuster movies get shit on for just being kind of having kind of this homogenous kind of visual style. This movie goes crazy. Yeah. This movie is so inventive and insane.
Like the scale is almost too big for IMAX.
Yeah.
There are times where they're pulled so far back, showing so much, and it still feels like it's just about to explode out of the frame. Specifically thinking the worm scene in the third act where they all come out of the dust cloud, where you're like, I'm looking at this on IMAX and it's still populating so much of the screen. It's like, which by the way, that third act is like something to be. It's not long.
No.
You know what I mean? Which is like the crazy part. It's not like
I was terrified. Me and Megan were talking about this earlier. I was terrified. I was like, there's going to be a Dune Part 3. Yeah. And like, I'm going to be pissed that there's going to be a Dune Part 3. Yeah. There's so much left to get through. And then like, they just like burn through it. In a way that like feels right, feels appropriate, especially for like, you know, he drinks the poison, becomes this, you know, opens his third eye, and just he sees the exact path and just barrels just to takes it.
Which is like the part that I walked out of the movie immediately talking about was like, it's so wild to me that he makes all of these choices knowing exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's the first time in a movie where you get somebody who's like precog, where they don't just fix the problem. Yeah. Like he's looked at this path, and the only way the Fremen or whatever his allegiances are, I guess at this point, they kind of make it a little bit like, they don't make it. The movie is very much like, is he doing this for himself? Is he doing it for the, you know what I mean? Right. Like, for his own well-being, his sister, his mom, and just trying to protect them. Is he really still integrated with the Fremen? Like, what exactly is it? Which is like, I think it's all of these things. But like, it's the first time where you're like, oh God, he didn't just fix the problem. He's going to start a holy war now. You know what I mean? And it's wild to me. It's such a like, this doesn't feel like it should belong in a blockbuster that's about to make $180 to $200 million opening weekend. You know what I mean? Like, I'm fascinated by that. Yeah. Because I think that's the biggest thing. From the things I've thought about the most are the themes and like the parallels between some of the stuff. Like one of the big talked about ones in terms of scenes was this scene where he walks into their like, they're in the South, and he walks in and he convinces everyone he is their Messiah. Yeah. And everyone's like, well, that just won him an Oscar. And I'm like, kind of, like a little bit like, because my first inclination was like, there's a lot of yelling going on. And then you realize like exactly what's going on. It's one of the best scenes I've seen in fucking years. Like sometimes you hear about these scenes, I was like, this is the one. And I saw that still of him crouching, and I was like, okay. And then I saw it and I was like, okay, maybe. Yeah. I mean, the Oscars are going to eat it up. Yeah. Now, my question for that is, do you think it can break? Because Dune didn't get nominated for Best Director. Do you think this breaks the mold?
Again, like I said, like earlier, just on a visual perspective, if this movie it's so creative, it's so inventive, it's so insane that like in a way that isn't like and this is in no way to disparage John Wick Chapter 4. That movie is also very visually insane, very visually, but not in that way where it's just like visual splendor and crazy for that visceral feeling. Like it is so baked into the story, the characters, the world, the universe, the the politics. Like so much of that is baked into what this movie is trying to say about these characters that would have this world, that would be living this way. That how you could deny Denis the work that he did on this is ridiculous.
Because everyone's been comparing it to Empire Strikes Back. And I think that's like a pretty valid comparison. And I think what they mean is that it's like it takes everything that the part one did and just does it bigger and crazier and maybe better. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like his directing in the first one feels perfect, and then somehow this one makes it seem small. Yeah. And Dune is one of the craziest, biggest movies ever, you know? Yeah. I really hope he does. I hope they get some acting nominations, man. Like
I hope so too.
Not to like boil this down to every good performance has to be talked about from the perspective of what is the Academy gonna think? Right. Whatever. But like genuinely, I think both fucking Timmy and Zendaya both deserve a nomination for it.
I think Rebecca Ferguson's phenomenal in it.
Rebecca Ferguson is phenomenal in it.
Yeah. Terrifying.
That fetus is crazy.
Yeah, not since 2001: A Space Odyssey have we seen such a creepy, weird
pregnancy
space baby.
Yeah, it's it's
specifically
wild.
Space Baby.
How much they lean into it too.
Yeah, I mean it reminds me so much of 2001: A Space Odyssey in the best way that I'm like really excited about. Yeah, holy shit, that shit's so creepy. And again, the visuals, the insanity, I love it so much.
Well, I another thing I've talked about this a lot is like action through or storytelling through action.
Yeah,
like through fight scenes and stuff.
Yes, yeah.
I think something that no one really is talking about that I've seen is like how the Fremen fight.
Yeah.
Not even necessarily their like war tactics. The way that they show them fighting.
Yeah.
You're looking at people who are used to fighting 20 people at once.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's the way that like you think they're jumping out of the way and really they're kicking you in the head.
Yeah.
It's like this fluid like I'm thinking specifically that one shot where it's Zendaya tearing through the battlefield versus Josh Brolin tearing through the battlefield, right? Brolin is very on his feet, dominating them physically, taking the quick kill. They're like picking people apart.
Yeah.
You know, it's and then you watch Paul do both.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it makes Paul feel like this marriage of these two cultures in a way that he has to.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I just am so impressed by that because the first one, like I said, first one's not the biggest like action movie. There's giant sequences and scenes. But this one feels like an action movie.
Yeah. I think even going even deeper than that on like down to the storytelling reasons for why certain cultures might be more adept at this kind of fighting than others is like it goes down to Frank Herbert was incredibly interested in as you can tell, I've done a lot of research in Dune since then. I have kept myself from learning anything about Dune until I watched Dune Part 2. And now that the seal is broken. Yeah. I am allowed, I'm allowing myself to learn all this stuff. But so Frank Ocean was incredibly interested. Frank Herbert. What did I say?
Frank Ocean. The first time you said Frank Herbert, and then you said Frank Ocean, and then now we're back to Frank Herbert.
Hilarious. Frank Ocean.
Perfect.
So Frank Ocean made Channel Orange, maybe one of the best mixtapes ever made. No. Frank Herbert was incredibly interested in how environments change people.
Yeah.
So you see that a lot with the worlds that these people are coming from. So the Harkonnens, they come from a harsh world, but not the harshest one.
Yeah.
The Sardaukar, their world is a industrial prison planet.
Yeah.
It's this awful, harsh environment. So that's why they are the Harkonnen or the Sardaukar. That's why they are the scariest possible things, because they come from this evil, disgusting, foul place. And the same is true for the Fremen. It's like they come from this incredibly harsh world where like they have to fight tooth and nail just to be able to drink water.
Yeah.
Like just to be able to survive on this planet. Even before the Harkonnens showed up for spice, like just for that. But before that point, they were already having to fight tooth and nail. And so that's why they like have that kind of as a culture, they are this like tough as nails,
Yeah.
Men and women. You know what I mean? Like you see the Harkonnens that are like, it is only men. It is a male-dominated society.
Yeah.
All of the women are literally like either there for pleasure or for sport.
Yeah.
Like they are there for nothing else.
Yeah.
And then you see the Fremen where it's like, we can't do that. Like
Yeah.
we need everyone to be as strong as possible and as useful as possible. So it's like on the storytelling, the like storytelling through action, we see that, but even down deeper into the world building of how these cultures and these characters sprung from that culture. I think it's fascinating.
And I think all of that translates from, and I haven't read the book and I'm gonna, but everything I'm hearing is it's just maybe the best book adaptation ever.
Yeah.
Like in terms of just what it is presenting, how it is presenting it both thematically and literally. Like, because there are changes. I've Chani and Rebecca Ferguson's character, his mom.
Yeah.
They are kind of Lady Jessica.
Yeah.
They're kind of emotionally flipped in the book. Where like Chani's pushing him to do this and his mom's like, I wouldn't, right?
Yeah.
And then I think the movie very smartly flips that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like to make it this like personal tragic thing that he's doing, so you don't just lose him when he starts a holy war. You're like, oh man, like
the Atreides family itself is very different in the books. They're much more formal, much more structured. They're not nearly as like in the movies. They're much more of like, especially in the first one. I mean, specifically in the first one, they're much more warm to each other. Like they feel like a normal family. In a way, and in the books, they are not that at all.
Yeah.
Like they're very much like structured military. Like the conversation that Paul and his father have at the gravesite, where he's like, "You can be whatever you want to, and I'll still love you," doesn't happen in the book.
See, and that's like my favorite part of the
100%.
first Dune. Like,
I think it sets up that like the change that we see in Paul's character throughout the first movie and throughout the entire, both movies. It's like, if he wasn't there, the tragedy of where he ends up is it makes it even more tragic.
Yeah, his journey becomes so much like more harrowing and long and there's so much. There's literally so much to talk about. This movie.
You mentioned on the car ride home that visual of Chani.
Yeah,
with it's like the same scene.
No,
it's so cool.
And
it's like she is taking that place in some ways of like that that freedom fighter that he sees in his own vision. Like he sees these multiple possible worlds and sees where she could end up, where he can end up, and like flipping that. It's fascinating.
And I think that's one of my favorite things is like you think about the choices he could have made.
Yeah.
What is the outcome of the future wherein him and Chani go back to their home world?
Yeah.
His home world.
Yeah.
Because in the first one, there's that quick vision of them on the ship.
Yeah.
And she's with him.
Yeah.
And in this movie, it's very much like she ends alone on Arrakis while he goes to start a holy war.
Yeah.
Like the tragedy cannot be overstated.
Yeah.
It's wild. But that one is like, I immediately thought of it because that shot in the first one is so like cool and talked about.
Yeah.
And then when you flip it, you're like, what does that mean exactly?
Yeah.
Like, is it him making a different choice? Is it like, is there some other thematic thing about him using her? Like, and so much of it I think is up to you, right? Is up to how you feel about it. But that was something that immediately stuck out to me. I loved it. I loved it. Favorite shots? Do you have any like very specific? Because the whole movie washes over you, and I know typically talking about favorite shots, but like there's certain ones that definitely have more emphasis in this movie.
I definitely want to rewatch it again before I make any calls on that. Like, because again, like so much of that was just by being bombarded with the environment we were in, and also like there's so much like going on that like to pull anything specifically I can't think. I mean, like my first thoughts that I'd come to just that struck me the hardest were basically the entirety of the gladiator fight
is one of the best parts of the movie. Everything
with the baby, like so much of that like just like it is just hits me like a ton of bricks.
Yeah.
The shots of him, coming over the ridge and seeing the like thousands of Fremen and the trailer shot.
The other one where it's like super like hazy because of the sand.
Yes, and him coming. Yeah.
And he is walking up and it looks almost black and white, and then the sandworm comes up behind him is like one of the best shots I've ever seen in my life.
Walking through the crowd like that over the head. Yeah.
Oh, dude, that one immediately you're like, You just kind of like take short. You're talking about images that take your breath away. Like Dune could essentially be a silent movie.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, or just music. It could have no dialogue, and it would everything would still work.
Yeah,
which is funny. There's all this not controversy, but discussion about Denis being like, I hate dialogue. TV has done this weird thing to movies where it's like he's like, I prefer an image, and it's like everyone's either like, what a weird director brain thing to say, or he's right, guys.
Yeah,
and it's like some marriage of the two because the dialogue in this movie is fantastic.
Yeah,
it is like
so well written. It's such a well written movie.
It is so good and so interesting, and Dune. But for me, some of the weird shots that I think there's all the trailer shots, right? Like the shot of him standing on the ridge when they fire the atomic arsenal, and blow up the thing. But it's like that shot over where you're watching over him completely, where he's still and you see the scale of what he's done.
Yeah.
But it's like that versus one of the shots that immediately was like a literal. I went.
I noticed that. But, I love that. I love watching you in a theater when you lean in. I was like, oh, this guy's locked in. Yeah. This dude is locked in.
But it's the shot when they take down the ornithopter and that fantastic sequence where they're like using the legs as cover.
So good.
But then they're just running for like 3 or 4 seconds, and then the ornithopter hits behind him and blows up, and you're like, oh, this is the best movie of all time.
It's the best movie.
It's that shit is so cool. I love the shot when he knocks down Gurney and he's like, I recognize your footsteps.
I literally knew you were about to bring that up.
And it's the profile, and you see everyone else run past him, and he's got the knife on him, and you're just like, oh man, what a movie.
That entire sequence of them destroying all of the spice harvesting stuff. You know, like they have those like 4 or 5, like a kind of montage sequence of them destroying all that stuff. It's like just every single one of those.
The whole sequence, where the Harkonnen go hard at him. It's Dave Bautista's out there, and you just see them flying through the dust, and they're shooting themselves. You know what I mean? It's all of that is
Dave Bautista's pussy ass running out and getting
getting killed by a complete random Fremen, which I love.
Yeah,
dude, it's the whole fight with between him and Austin Butler.
Yeah.
Did you think Austin Butler was underused at all? Did you want him to have more screen time? How'd you feel about him? Because I thought he was really good. I was expecting him to be in it way more.
No, I felt again that I might feel different on a more thorough watch. I do want to talk about Austin Butler. I feel like people are still making fun of him for his voice, and like doing the Elvis voice. I could not disagree more. He is doing such an amazing Stellan Skarsgård as Baron Harkonnen. Yeah. He sounds exactly like him.
Yeah.
Like obviously like
a little bit more like
younger,
snarling a little bit. Yeah.
In a really, really cool way.
Yeah.
That I'm super into. It's like I thought his vocal work in that is really, really, really cool. And people are like, I think it's more of just like the meme than it is like how people actually feel. But like, I thought the voice he was doing, like that character choice was so interesting.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, I never heard the Elvis voice. I'm sure I'll hear it at some point if somebody can pinpoint a line for me or something. Like, I'm sure there's one thing or two, right? But whatever. I was fully locked in on him. The parallels between him and Paul are so good. I not enough for me to like a lot of the shots of like them walking into like where you're barely seeing them bob in and out of being so close to the camera, and then the light silhouettes them. It's like there's like literal like you could match cut those shots. They're so similar. And then them facing off at the end being the two potential pawns of the Bene Gesserit.
Yeah.
Paul's broken free of these bounds, and Fade Rother is not. Like it's that stuff, but that last fight, dude, is so fucking good.
Yeah.
Like heavy hitting and weighted.
Yeah.
And it again doesn't overstay its welcome.
Yeah.
It's just like 2 minutes, 3 minutes.
It is the first time in a movie where they do the we stab each other at the same time, but you die and I don't. Mm-hmm. The first time I've seen that done, like that's the best I've ever seen that. Yeah. Like it is the most effective and like because that's the thing is like you see that Fade, like you see him look down, he's like, oh shit, I'm the dead one, and you think that Paul is just like completely unscathed, and then he falls down and you look at his shoulder and you see the knife sticking out of his shoulder. It's like, oh shit, like no, like,
and it like hurts him. Like Paul is this messiah, you know what I mean? Because I also, something that stuck out to me a lot is that like Fade is not as he's scary, but not because he's that much of a threat.
Yeah.
Like, does he stab Paul? Yes. In a one-on-one fight, is he very capable? Yes.
Yeah.
But in his birthday thing, it's an execution. And when he fights one dude, he almost loses.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like when he sends all of his men to go take out the last of the siege.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And he doesn't kill the person in a one-on-one fight.
No. Burns her to death.
He literally uses a flamethrower after she has taken out like 10 of his men with one blade, right? Like he's just psychotic and scary, and his presence is what makes him that way, versus paralleling him to Paul, who is on the front lines with the Fremen the whole time, who is like fighting 3 or 4 people at once and winning. Like, I love that. I love that the reason he's scary is not necessarily because he's this like end-all be-all fighter. He walks into a room and everyone's like, well, we're all fucking dead. Yeah. Like, I genuinely kind of think Gurney would have beat him in a fight.
Gurney's this legendary fighter.
It's like Gurney and Duncan, Idaho are both like, I fully believe that he would have, you know, like we see Gurney on a battlefield more than once. And that shot, that whole sequence when he's just tearing through that battlefield. Yeah. And it's that like profile one where you just see him hacking through everyone. And then when he comes up over the ridge and he's completely silhouetted is so good.
Best shit. Best movie. Dude, best movie.
Dude, really here's the sad realization I've been having. I don't know if anything's going to beat this for me this year. And it's barely March.
I had top 5 worst movie going experiences in my entire life. And best movie of the year.
Yep.
In March. In February, technically.
Which is like not... the reason this got pushed is not... They didn't choose to put this out in March. You know what I mean? Yeah. Which is like... I hope that doesn't affect its like... Again, awards are stupid and they don't matter. But like, I hope it doesn't affect its run at the end of the year.
It's really early. It's literally before this year's Oscars.
But last year, Everything Everywhere All at Once did it. They kind of swept a lot.
That's true.
And it came out before... Anyway,
that's very true.
There's a chance it won't, but I think Dune 2 is just so like... I don't think there's going to be another movie this year of that scale. I don't even think there's one that I can... Because like, there's not really superhero movies coming out this year, and those aren't exactly... They're not at all what Dune's do. I guess Furiosa, maybe. Furiosa could be that same type of like giant... Also a desert movie. We're getting 2 wasteland...
Also desert, Anya Taylor-Joy.
Also Anya Taylor-Joy, which is... Hey. We're getting two wasteland desert-based movies, and also 2 movies about monkey kings. It's just an embarrassment of like amazing cinema coming our way.
To be clear,
evil monkey kings.
The two monkey kings is Kong or Godzilla and Kong.
New Empire.
New Empire, which the fucking trailer's hilarious.
Hey, they just released a shot where King Kong jumps on Godzilla's back and rides him for a little bit. And that's the coolest shit of all time.
I love what those movies are doing. Thank you.
Thank you, movies.
Thank you for Fast and Furiousing those.
Straight up. Like, especially because we got -1 already.
We got -1. We can keep the kind of Shin Godzilla. Yeah. Those can still exist. I would love for those to continue to make more of those. But man, Yassified Godzilla, I'm here for.
And then the other one is Planet of the Apes.
Planet of the Apes.
It has another evil monkey king in it.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's just a side tangent.
Yeah. So are we going to talk about how Star Wars, the first one, kind of specifically, stole everything from Dune?
It stole nothing is original.
Nothing's original. Dune came out in 1965. Star Wars, the first one, came out in 1977. Dune, Tatooine, moisture farming, the Fremen, Tusken Raiders, kind of. Sand crawlers are in both. The totalitarian emperor that they're fighting against. Spice, the sandworm, the Sarlacc, the voice, the Force. Yeah. The protagonist is a descendant of the villain.
Yeah.
Honestly, also literally just the idea of these planets that are a single biome.
Yeah.
Like that's that's more of a thing in the Dune books than it is in this. I mean, like,
but it's felt in the movie. It's for sure. Like it's one of my favorite things about the first one specifically is you feel this idea of the great houses. And then this one adds new things to that where it's like they're a checks and balances system.
Yeah.
The Emperor keeps them fighting amongst themselves so they can't turn on him.
Yeah.
But there are natural enemies within the great families, which is like the Atreides and the Harkonnens are like the natural... It's a fascinating world building that I love a lot. I think is so cool. You're not wrong.
Frank Herbert, after seeing Star Wars, he said, "I'm gonna try really hard not to sue."
Is that true? Did you
Yeah.
say?
Oh yeah.
Wild.
And the other like actually kind of disappointing thing is, look, George Lucas took a lot of inspiration from a lot of different sources.
The Hidden
Flash
Fortress
Gordon,
and a lot of Kurosawa's work.
A lot of Kurosawa. So it's like it's not just that. Clearly, it's not just that. But he has failed to recognize Dune's influence on Star Wars, and I think that's.
Is it the same level as bad as what James Cameron's done with Avatar? Like
no, not quite.
It's the same general field. It's just not the same.
There's a lot of inspiration there. There's a lot borrowed,
he didn't
but it
straight
is
up crib
an entire visual style.
Yeah, like because Star Wars also has a lot of other visual styles that.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
There's a lot of other influences there.
Yeah,
and it is and
it's another space opera. It's,
yeah. They are different, but man, they are very similar in a lot of ways.
Yes.
It's just I did not know the depths because like that was I saw that point being brought up on a TikTok by I can't remember the creator's name. Something Laser.
Kit Laser.
Kit Laser.
His stuff is awesome.
I love that dude's. I love that dude's TikTok. It was his video that I pulled this information from. Shout out. Come on the pod.
Come on the pod.
Seriously, come on the pod.
That would be sick, dude.
I would absolutely love that. I really.
We'll watch any movie you want.
Seriously though, I would love that. Where was I going? What was I saying?
He made a point in a TikTok about the things that were stolen.
Yeah, where it's just like, all art is theft. Like you're always taking inspiration from stuff, but it's like just give credit.
Yeah,
credit where credit is due. Like there's so much different in Star Wars, but there is so much similar.
Yes. And again, nothing is original. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's I think an important thing to say is that Tarantino's movies are all amalgamations of weird movies you've never heard of. Does that make it any less theft than stealing from a famous thing?
Right.
Like theft, and I say in like the artistic of like.
I mean, it's like you bring up Avatar. It's like and now
Avatar's so 1-to-1.
Ooh, yeah, the visuals that the concept art that he pulled from
the entire world,
world, and then the story specifically of the first one is already so rote.
Yeah,
that like it's like woof, that is like rough.
Yeah, and I'll say this: look, like the narrative of Star Wars and Dune are pretty different.
Oh, very. You know what I mean? Was exactly my point.
Luke is so archetypal in a way that Paul feels almost like anti-archetypal, where it's like he's the archetype of the hero's journey, but he has a tragic, like a different type of, you know what I mean? Like I feel like it's not commenting, but twisting the idea of that.
Yeah, it's like Star Wars going, no, he is the good guy chosen one.
Yeah,
like,
and
he is the good guy.
Yeah. Yeah, and Dune is so like Paul's gonna commit a lot of genocide, so much genocide.
I mean, Star Wars is the Flash Gordon version.
Yes, it is.
Where it's like a lot more simple and or not simple, but like simple. Like there's the complexity of the politics within Dune is much deeper than that of Star Wars. And then honestly, by like Empire, it just goes in a completely different way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's like I said, like it borrows some ideas of the descendant, or the hero is the descendant of the villain.
Yeah,
that kind of thing. Like those things are borrowed, but it's like specifically Star Wars, the first one, not the overall trilogy, or even like where it goes on beyond that. And a bunch of other, but man, there are a bunch of big pieces that are taken from both, which I think is utterly fascinating.
But yeah. Yeah,
they're both great. They're both great.
Like, I love Star Wars.
I just think it was funny.
I love Dune. I swore I wouldn't read the Dune book.
Yeah,
and now I'm gonna read the Dune book.
Yeah,
like
I have the audiobook on my phone ready to go.
When I said that I hadn't quite read it yet, and now I've finished it. More on that in a couple months. When we get to it,
more on that.
More on. Yeah, no,
what an idiot for reading a very great book.
For reading
for reading a very popular book.
For reading a very famous long book that honestly, at a certain point, I think I got physically stronger reading it because it's so heavy. Anyway, Dune, do you have other thoughts, other things, other feelings?
I can't wait to watch it again. I can't wait to watch it again in an environment where I think I will more thoroughly enjoy it.
Yeah, and not to talk about this too much. Like we've had the terrible theater discussion on here a bunch.
Yeah,
I've never shushed someone in a theater.
Yeah,
and I might have took it too far this time.
No.
The guys behind us, the guys in front of us and behind us,
every person that wasn't us in the theater.
Yeah. Were the people directly next to y'all fine?
They were fine.
The people directly next to
they were the ones who
started an almost fight.
Yeah, literally. Just to let's set it up chronologically.
Yeah.
We get in. We're there 15 minutes before the screening is actually supposed to start. Obviously, there's going to be like 30 minutes of trailers. Oh my God, there were so much the same.
AMC has too many.
Too many. And people are filtering in throughout the trailers, like all the way up until like 9:30. Our screening started at 9, all the way up until like 9:30. People were still filtering in. And man, the dude in front of me during the trailers had his phone out and was watching a Dune Part 1 recap because he hadn't seen the movie.
I noticed one point I didn't see him doing that, but I noticed at one point his friend leaning over and they were talking about
they did that several times. They did that several times.
Yeah.
Driving me.
But anyway, the people in front of us, a couple down.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the people next to us, right when the movie had just started, and like there's a group of like 6 or 8 people right in front in the row in front of us to our right, and like 3 of them pull out their phones to take a picture of the screen of the movie that they're watching. And so the people behind them, the people next to us, the dude was like, "Hey, put your fucking phone away." And then all of them turned. "You are being really rude.
Yeah,
you're being so rude.
That loud. That's not an exaggeration.
You're being rude. We're just taking a picture. What's the problem?"
And they doubled down, and it went for like 30 seconds.
It went way too long.
Like, and the movie's going, like, literally to the point that I kind of do not remember the dialogue from the first like 30 seconds of that movie, where it was like,
I mean, yeah, because the movie opens on black with the, I have no clue what it says at this point because it has the like, yeah.
So that's the beginning, and then
that's how the movie. Then the first 45 seconds of the movie was that.
Nothing from them from that point. The people in front of us continued to be dicks and like talk and be on their phones and shit.
The guy sitting directly in front of me took out his phone every 15 minutes to text. I'm like, dude, you spent $20 on an IMAX ticket for opening night for a movie you haven't seen the first one, and you decide to text every 15 minutes. Maybe you would understand what's going on
if you weren't
texting.
And the people behind us, look, to give like 5% credit to the behavior, this movie is funnier than the first one.
Yes.
The first half of this movie is quite funny.
Yeah.
It has quite a few bits. It has quite a few, quite a bit of life in it. Not the whole time. It's not like people are telling jokes, but the movie knows some things are a little silly. Yeah. And it knows how heavy it is, so it's trying to give you an ability to laugh for a while before it takes that away from you. That worked too well because every time they cut back to Stilgar, for the rest of the movie, these guys behind us, and I kid you not, they're like 3 grown men, like, like laughing like little children. Yeah. In a way that I was like, I was baffled because like they would laugh during parts that were like the end of the movie when he's looking at Zendaya making his final choice to start the whole. They're laughing. 2 minutes before the movie ended, I snapped. Yeah. I meant to go, shush, be quiet. And what I said was, I turned around and went, shh, this loud. I went, shut the fuck up. Turned back around and went, God damn it. Yeah. And then the movie ended 2 minutes later. They stood up and filed out. Yeah. I was like,
dude, yeah, that was like everybody in that theater. There was so much chatting. There was so much phones. That like, I'm usually a shusher. I cannot. Yeah. Like, this is the thing. I honestly believe this is part of the reason why people have stopped going to the movies.
Oh, completely.
Is because there is, and look, I don't blame the 16-year-olds working at AMC. I don't expect them to take up this fight, but for the love of, if there was any sort of policy that came down from AMC corporate, and I'm calling out AMC specifically, every single time I have gone to an IMAX movie at AMC has been some of the worst experiences I've ever had. Like, me and Megan, we went and saw Top Gun Maverick. Bad experience. We went and saw The Way of Water. Not as bad, but not great. And this was just awful. AMC, you're fucking dead to me. Yeah. I am never going to, definitely not opening night. I am never going to an AMC IMAX screening as long as I can possibly help it. Cinemark, there's one Cinemark within 50 miles of where I live that has a Cinemark, that has an IMAX screen. If there's an IMAX movie that I feel like I have to go to, I'm going to Cinemark.
And that IMAX screen is like a fucking dome one. Yeah, it's
unbelievable. I will do that. Yeah. I am done with AMC. If you're just going to let everybody fuck around and do whatever the fuck they want, then I'm not going there. This is why I like Alamo. Is because they take that shit seriously.
I need Alamo to get IMAX.
Yes. Oh my God. They've got the big show, but it's just a big ass screen.
Yeah, but the audio's kind of fucking whack.
Is it really?
A little bit. It felt.
But it's not even IMAX. It's also not IMAX. Like it's just a big screen,
which is like cool. Like don't get me wrong. Like there are movies that I don't need IMAX or whatever, but I would still like to see in just a big.
Right.
Like Dune would be fun to see there.
Yeah.
It's not IMAX, but no, I may have gone too far with that.
Oh, I have done worse. But
so I just at a certain point was like, because I think the other thing I was gonna do, and Megan said she was gonna do the same thing, was just make jokes about how I wish we thought anything was as funny as those freaking idiots right there as we were leaving in front of them. But at a certain point, I was just like, guys, I can't do it. Like this movie, like because they're laughing about like really unfunny things.
It was literally the first time that they kissed. It was Chani and Paul, they kissed, and the dudes behind us are laughing. I'm like, my God, are you 4?
Yeah.
Are you 12 years old? Is it really funny to watch a man and woman kiss?
It was rough, dude.
Yeah, dude.
And again, all that to be said,
Movie's
we both still fucking love that movie, and
phenomenal.
we're still locked in.
Can't wait to watch it again at an Alamo Drafthouse.
Yeah.
At a place where they take that kind of thing seriously.
Yeah. Look, the answer is so simple, but AMC will never do it. They just need to hire people to be in the building that come in and tell them to get off their phones and leave.
Dude, yeah, I don't even think they have to be there the entire time. They could do laps.
What I mean is if somebody walks out and complains about somebody, that person is alerted and they walk in and kick them out.
Yeah.
That's what needs to happen.
Yeah. Pay a freaking 6 foot tall high schooler who doesn't give a shit. You know what I mean? Like who will, you know what I mean? Like bodyguards on average get paid like $15 an hour, or not bodyguards, security guards get paid like $15 an hour, and it's not that expensive. Like that's not what we're, But
AMC just doesn't care.
No, they don't give a shit.
No.
Like, and then they're all confused why nobody wants to come see movies.
Here's the thing. So this is a twofold issue. This is a mini-sode turning into a full-length episode, which is we talked about Minisode.
We're just not doing a game. We're just not doing recommendations.
It's a twofold issue. The people who are going to be assholes and talk during movies and be on their phone are going to not come to the theater anymore if that happens.
Yeah.
And everyone else who doesn't want to go to the theater because they don't want to be disturbed by people like that aren't going to the theaters anyway.
Yeah.
And so AMC, I guess, is in the position of like, fuck it, we'll just let it naturally evolve. It's like, no. You guys need to start fighting the fucking streaming services who want this to happen.
Yeah.
Who make movies specifically with built-in moments where you can check your fucking phone based on an algorithm.
Yeah.
Like, guys.
Yeah.
You got to make, like, which is what makes Alamo so cool. Alamo's very fun and very awesome. They revamped recently their, like, Be Quiet thing and made it a little more intense.
Yeah.
Going to the fucking movies is like going to a live theater production or a concert or something like that. You're surrounded by people and there's a social contract, and fucking the social contract is going to start turning sour if it isn't upheld.
I understand that people think things are funny in different ways. I can understand that. It's, do I love it? No, but I'm not going to hold that against somebody for giggling at a moment that I maybe not be giggling at. Do I hate every single person who gets a text on their phone and they check it real quick? No. Like, some shit happens.
It's
the fucking ubiquity. It's the fact that everybody or every other person in that theater was either talking, laughing, or on their phone. It's every other person in that theater was like an awful, like it was an awful environment.
And we were at like a 9:00 showing. Like, it should have been the crowd that was more like the people who were dedicated to going to see it. You know what I mean? Who were like, I don't know, man. And maybe the fan first screenings would have been better. I don't know. And I think that's very regional to here. Like when I went to college and stuff, the IMAX screens, the theaters in general were never like this.
Yeah.
I never ran into issues outside of a little like, hey, what was it going?
And that's fine. Like,
you know what I mean?
A little whisper, a little thing here and there, I can handle that. It's not that big a deal.
But yeah, when I went back to visit people and my parents and stuff, and I went and saw movies in IMAX in theaters, never ran into an issue still.
Yeah.
It is very regional to here, dude. It's weird. Like,
I doubt it's literally just DFW. Like, if anything you ask, it feels like where your parents live is the exception.
Yeah.
I would assume that most areas would be pretty similar.
Yeah, dude. It's in theater.
And I've gone to multiple IMAX screens in the area, and they're all the same. They're all the same. Except for that one Cinemark, because I went and saw Dunkirk, and I went and saw and we went and saw Oppenheimer at that one Cinemark screen. Now both of those were 70 millimeter IMAX Nolan nerd screenings, so maybe that won't be the case if I go see any other old movie in just regular old IMAX on that screen. But yeah, like truly, if I can help it, I am never going to an AMC ever again.
Yeah,
I'm done. Like I'm done. Like they don't give a shit. They are actively like, they don't give a shit. So I'm not going.
Support theaters, but also support the theaters that are trying.
Yeah.
Support your Alamo
I'm
Draft
not saying
House.
I'm not saying you, the viewer, should never go to an AMC. Yeah. There's an AMC near you where the client, the people that are there are respectful and you enjoy being there. Go for it. That is all you. This is a personal boycott. I expect no one else to follow in my footsteps. Shane Stewart, has had so many bad experiences at AMC specifically that I'm done.
It's like vote with your dollar, dude. Go support the fucking Alamo Draft House. Go support the little indie cinema that gives a shit. You know what I mean? Like
Texas theater, like cool theaters like that.
And admittedly, not everyone has those around them. But just do a little research, and I guarantee a lot of people will find really cool spots to go to. And Alamo, dude, that's the revelation in going to the movies. It's so look. I've had bad experiences at Alamo.
Oh yeah,
but that's typically the really crowded showings for the movies that are like culturally in the moment. You know what I mean? But 9 times out of 10, those are 1/4 as bad. They're like just a little tiny speck of annoying.
Yeah.
And when they get too bad, they're kicked out of the movie. I've never been in a Alamo scene where someone's been kicked out. I've been in them where they've been warned.
Yeah.
And they come in and go, put your phone away. And then walk off.
Yeah.
I don't know, dude. It's just
so disappointing.
I love the movies.
That movie deserved so much better than the morons that were there gave it credit.
That was the big part. Not to get too like cinema is powerful and meaningful, but it's like, guys, show some goddamn respect. You're never going to see something like this again for the first time. Like, ever. Like, Dune is... I genuinely believe Dune Part 2 is that good.
Why can't you just have an experience?
I know.
Like, just be in the moment. Like, I can tell you, the person that you're texting... This conversation that you're having over text is not as important as the experience you could be having, the like genuine experience that you could be having.
And if it is, you need to step into the hall and make a fucking phone call.
I have done that. I've gotten a text, checked it like as discreetly as possible, and then go, I need to deal with this, and so I will leave, whether it's leave the theater altogether or at least go into the hallway, side hall, so I'm not bothering ananybody. Yep. Like.
If you have decency and respect, and you honor the social contract.
See, that was for a long time why I had a smartwatch, is so I could check like really subtly on my wrist if I needed to deal with it or not. Yeah. Otherwise, I could swipe it away and not deal with it. Like I'd turn the brightness all the way down or turn the screen off. So I wouldn't bother anybody.
It's awful, dude.
It's just like the lack of awareness that human beings at this point have. I don't know if it was the pandemic that screwed everybody up or everybody just sucks at this point. And it's not a generational thing either. That's the one thing I super want to point out.
Not.
It wasn't just a bunch of teenagers. It was teenagers up to grown ass older people. All the way through the spectrum. Either the people that were behind us were a little bit older than us. The people in the row, the ones that were taking pictures and like, you're being so rude, they were quite a bit older than us. And the people in front of us were about our age. And then the rest of the theater was speckled of between teenage.
Yeah, it's not. It is not a It's not a generational.
Not a generational thing. Everybody fucking sucks.
Yeah. It is. I mean, like I think you're right. I think it's the pandemic. I think it's fucking phones and attention span issues. Like. It's everything. Anyway, Dune!
Go support a cool theater.
Yeah.
Go support a theater that respects you and respects your enjoyment of the theater. Mm-hmm. And go see Dune because holy shit, that movie fucking rules.
Incredible. I literally think I could do another episode on it after watching it. Yeah. But there's just so much to unpack and talk about.
I can't wait to watch it again. And I don't think this will be the last time we talk about it.
No. Check in for Dune Part 2.
Dune Part 2. Possibly next year for Oscar conversations.
Potentially, man.
Potentially.
There's
no way this is not going to get nominated for nothing. That's for damn sure.
I already think it's kind of a lock for cinematography.
Fucking Greg Fraser. Give that man his flowers. Holy shit.
Like, he already won once for Dune. He's going to win another.
Give him more flowers. He needs more.
Especially after not getting it for the Batman.
Bullshit. Biggest bullshit of all time.
Yeah. Anyway, Dune. Anything else you want to talk about Dune?
No, nothing for Dune. Just recommendations or anything like that? Or
Dune, Dune Part 2.
Dune Part 1, Dune Part 2.
Yeah. I don't know, recommendation wise.
If you want to watch a video that is really interesting about Dune, kind of a comparison between the book and the movie, kind of a lot of where I was getting what I was talking about, Alt-Shift-X on YouTube. Yeah. He has a video called The Real Dune. Go watch that. It's like an hour and a half long, which is crazy. But holy shit, is so in detail about kind of, it doesn't have spoilers for Part 2, which I wish I would have known because I probably would have watched that before. I don't know, but it doesn't have any information about Part 2, but still utterly fascinating.
Yeah.
There we go. The Real Dune by Alt-Shift-X.
There it is. I'm not going to recommend anything, but
Frank Herbert's Dune.
Yeah, I literally will probably be buying a copy of that in the next couple weeks.
Like I said, I have the audiobook on my phone right now.
I want the cool Barnes and Noble like super sick hardback edition.
Yeah,
but I'm also intimidated by that book. So
yeah, as well you should be.
As well I should be.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's been our discussion on Dune Part 2.
Yeah.
It's incredible. Go watch it. Watch it again. Watch it a third time.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Dune 2 chicks at the same time.
We said we wouldn't say it again. Anyway, go do these things. Watch it or don't. I don't know. Like, live your life.
Unless you talk in theaters, otherwise die.